JT Crowley is Talking Books. On this show, you'll hear from emerging talent and seasoned veterans from around the world.
Hello, I'm JT Crowley, and I warmly welcome back for the third time Linda Harkey to talk about her children's books that are built around a pack of hunting dogs, that are built around the stories, the experiences that she's had with these hunting dogs. They are German short-hair pointers and all their associate friends, animals that they come across on their daily adventures at Lazy Dog's Hacienda. So these are children's books, everybody, all about the hunting dogs and their friends and the adventures that these hunting dogs have. There are 9 books in her collection of children's books, but for the purpose of this interview, we're going to concentrate on 5 of the books, because if we did all 9, we'd still be here tomorrow. But the other 4 books will be in the written introduction for you to go and have a look at. So we do put them there, everybody. But as I said, for the purpose of this podcast, we're going to do just the 5 books. And they are Hickory Dock's Tales, The Pack First Generation, The Remarkable Story of Willie the Crow, A Hickory Dock's Tale, Chatty, the Hen Pheasant, Travels with the Pack, Blake Jake's Unusual Day, Travels with the Pack, and finally, the second edition of Desert Friends, Travels with the Pack. Linda is from New Mexico. She's been married to Mike, a retired surgical pathologist, for more years than she cares to recall. She has 2 children, 3 grandchildren, and I mustn't forget the 1 great-grandchild. And, of course, she's got a whole host, a whole menagerie of dogs, pets, etc. That's just her lifestyle, and that's where the stories really do come from. So, Linda, it's great to catch up with you again. Would you like to come and join me on the show?
Yes, definitely. And I really appreciate all that you do, John.
Oh, it's a huge privilege to have you back on the show for the third time and talk about more of your books. Now, Linda, before we open up the books, would you care to tell everyone a little about yourself, where you come from in New Mexico, that mountain home that you live in, and the background as to how the stories and books came to be?
I'd be glad to, John. We live on top of a mesa, 10,000 feet up, outside of Angel Fire, New Mexico. We call it Hidden Lake. I started a long time ago. Actually, I wrote my first book in 2005. I'm a past teacher of regular schools, also Sunday schools, and I'm also a docent for 20-some years with 2 important museums in Oklahoma. And while we were there, we did a lot of work with children, which enabled me to see not just a written book, but the visual book with the paintings, etc. And that's sort of how I got started with my own books. And my dogs are, I guess what I would say, John, the most important thing to me for my books, for my children's books, is for the children to enjoy them, to learn a little bit of life lessons, but also it's for the memory of over 30 hunting dogs that we have had, and my husband, the hunter, that we call the Great One in the stories.
And if you're going to ask me, everybody, do I have a favourite character, a favourite dog? I do. Zeke. He was he had a different coat to all the others, and he certainly thought that he was a bit above all the others. He was his own character. So, Linda, let's start with Hickory Dock's Tales, The Pack First Generation. Now, there are 9 small chapters to this book, and here we get the story of the 5 original hunting dogs, with Doc being the old wise dog, and we have Zeke, here we go, his younger annoying brother, Patch, his daughter, Russian Zoot. Now, I love the story in chapter 3, the story of the porcupine, Quills, Pete, and Rush. So, Linda, why that story in that chapter? Where did that come from?
Comes from most of the stories that I tell the children, because I'm a storyteller first, come from the experiences that my husband had hunting with the animals and all of the adventures that they had. I simply exaggerate the stories and make them into children's stories. He can tell me a sentence. Porcupine Pete came about simply because when my husband goes hunting with the dogs, and he hunts, by the way, he only hunts birds. But when he would go hunting with them, they might wander off. Rush was notorious for seeing another animal, such as a porcupine, and they have a scent that the animals seem to love. And Rush would run in and he would throw the porcupine up in the air, and yet he would get all these needles in him. And then my husband would have to take them out with the needle nose pliers. That's where this story comes from. It teaches for the children, not just the humor of it, but also the loyalty and the obedience of animals, which sometimes is non-existence, you know, and my husband would have to go and get him. So most of these adventures are actually about those type of animals. And Porcupine Pete was one of the best, I must admit.
I found it funny.
Yeah, well, it was. And, you know, I can't begin to tell you the number of times that Rush would get into them. It's like they don't learn. And yet he would come out with all these needles, and Mike would have to sit down and pull them out one by one.
With the pliers, everyone.
With the pliers. That's exactly right. Thank you for reminding me of the word again.
Pliers.
Yeah. I kept trying to think of it. But anyway, Rush was our adventurer dog. I mean, he loves adventures, and he would do those kind of things.
Yes, he did. And I'm intrigued as to the storylines, you know, in the book as well. We talk about hamburgers, fries, Caesar salads, and Temptations, and Cabbage Patch Skunk. And I'm thinking, what are these dogs meddling and getting themselves into here? And you talk about Upside Down Owl, all sorts of ventures. Spill the beans here, Linda. Where are you taking the kids here with these doggy adventures?
Well, we considered our dogs as our family. So they were inside dogs and outside dogs. And they happened to love Caesar salad. I cannot begin to tell you about Caesar salad and hunting dogs. They loved it. And so I had a dinner party one night, and good old Doc was in the kitchen when we were in the living room, and I had laid out the big salad for everybody there. And also the hamburgers were sitting there, and I was getting ready to bring the company in. And Doc decided that he wanted them. So he kind of put his paws up on the table, and he got into the hamburgers, and he knocked over the bowl with Caesar salad, which brought my husband in. And thus begins the adventure of my husband chasing Doc out in the pasture and finally getting him back in. And Doc was the one we usually let sleep in a chair in the house, but we put him out with Zeke in the next kennel. And Zeke is the dog that you love. He's also I love all my dogs, but Zeke he was too smart to be a dog. He definitely was very smart. And so Doc had to spend the night with Zeke out in the kennel, and that Zeke never stopped talking to Doc, and that drove Doc crazy. So that'll tell you just a little bit about that story.
And she even had a dog, everybody, had a penchant for book covers. Now, the second book you wanted to talk about in this interview, Linda, is The Remarkable Story of Willie the Crow, a Hickory Doc's Tale. This is the story of the friendship between Patch, who's Doc's daughter, and Willie the Crow. Now, everybody, Willie the Crow didn't have the best eyesight in the world. And when you look at the story here, Linda, you've got him crashing and bumping into all sorts of things like the shed. Now, the other dogs aren't too happy with Patch's relationship with Willie. They're more concerned with their street cred amongst the neighbouring dogs, as they're supposed to be hunting dogs, not friendly dogs with Willie the Crow. But Doc, the old wise one, has got another plan here. He spots an opportunity here for Patch to get to learn all about birds. So what's the real story behind this, Linda? Tell us.
Okay. We had a swimming pool in our backyard, and the German Shorthair pointers, at least nowadays, don't seem to, they're breeding, they don't seem to like a lot of water, to be honest. I think years and years ago they did. So my German Shorthair pointers would not get into the water. But Patch and Willie, there was a crow, a neighbor had a crow that was very used to the family, so to speak. So Patch and this crow would run around out in the backyard. Crows are very smart. And then one day, Patch got into the pool. And so this story is simply about how the dogs come together in a team effort of saving Patch from drowning. And Willie is one of the ones that went to go find Newt, our Labrador Retriever. But you've got to understand, Labrador Retrievers love water. But Newt was one Labrador Retriever that was afraid of the water. But Newt was able to get into the water because of Patch. Now I'm exaggerating the story, but and get Patch out. So that's one of the, the points of this story, so to speak.
It's the overriding theme, everybody. And as Linda's already preempted my next question. So
okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Patch did fall into the swimming pool, and Willie the Crow was dispatched to go and get Newt. So as Linda says, it's all about teamwork, and that's what the hunting pack is all about. Because when they go out on hunting, they work as a pack, they work as a team, just like you see any dogs or wolves or anything like that. They act as a pack, act as a team. Now, the third book you wanted to chat about, Linda, no pun intended here, everyone, was Chatty the Pheasant Hen Travels with the Pack. This is the adventure story of Chatty the Pheasant Hen and Lucky, a black Labrador Retriever. Now, you set the scene on a bleak November's day, a snowy day, on the plains of South Dakota. Lucky is out to impress the Great One, his owner. But Chatty, well, she's got her own story to tell here. And I'm not going to tell it you, everybody, because I'm going to ask Linda to tell it.
Okay. Yes, my husband loved to hunt with the dogs all through the different seasons, or when the seasons were for that particular species, so to speak. And so they were in South Dakota. This did almost happen, not quite the same way, but and Lucky, basically Lucky's name was Cimarrock Lucky Nassau. So we actually called him Nassau, to be quite honest with you. That's what his name is in the book. And he loved to please the Great One, the hunter. And he came amongst a huge snow pile, very high, and he dug through the snow pile, and there was Chatty, the pheasant hen. And she was sitting there, burrowed down in the snow. And Nassau grabbed her, and hunting dogs, to make a really, really good hunting dog, they have to have a soft mouth, which means they don't crush down on the birds, so that when they're called to bring them back, or when the hunter has them bring them back, that, they don't have teeth marks. So Nassau was very gentle in trying to bring Chatty back. And this is the story of what happens to a hunting dog when they steer away from realizing what they're supposed to be hunting. The hen pheasants, that was not the type of this, that was not the season or the time or the week to be able to hunt the hens. And my husband was very good about obeying all of the rules with the animals. And so Nassau learned a very valuable lesson, and Chatty tried to convince Nassau to let her go. And I think it's a cute story. I hope the children would really, really like that story, because Chatty tries to talk Nassau out of taking her.
She's cute. To. She's smart.
Yes.
She knows she's not in the arena at the moment. And yes, she's very adorable, everybody.
Yeah.
Now, when I look at the books, Linda, the illustrations that Mike Minnick does for you, I mean, he's illustrated 8 of your books, I believe. And so when I've looked at the illustrations to all the books, all the 8 books that he's done, there's only one that he didn't do. I begin to wonder, did you enjoy working with Mike to bring these illustrations, these wonderful, vivid, bright, imaginative, beautiful illustrations to life? Did you enjoy working with Mike?
I love working with Mike. Met him years ago. He's from Tulsa, Oklahoma, where we used to live in Catoosa. Now we don't, obviously, because we're up here in Angel Fire. But he's fabulous. I will do a manuscript, and then I will send him the manuscript with various places where I want the illustrations or the page. I'm not sure on the pages exactly until you get the book out there to see an outline of it or draft of it. And then Mike goes through it, reads the manuscript, because I think that's most important for your illustrator to actually read every word. And he's excellent with that. And then we talk. And he and I are on the same mind frame. He's a fabulous illustrator, designer, and he works with a lot of different places in Tulsa. He doesn't just do children's books, obviously. He's very involved with hospitals, etc., for all of their marketing, and he's fabulous with that. And he and I that way can bounce ideas off of each other, because he has fabulous ideas too. And so I listen to him when we're talking about illustrations. He's that good, and I will always use Mike. He's a fabulous illustrator.
They are beautiful, everybody. The kids are just going to love them. Do you have a favorite character? Do you have a favorite book out of all your collections, all your animals? Or are they all equal to you?
Yeah, it's so hard to say that, because I love all of my books because they're about my family, my animals, my husband. So I love every one of them. I think every time I do the last book, I always think, oh, this is really the one that I just know the kids are going to love, because I love storytelling with the children. I think that's the most important thing a person can do. I think the children need happiness, and they need to experience animals. Animals give us all of our life lessons and everything else. And I've said that before. But anyway, I hate to tell you this. I don't want to say that I have a favorite book, because I think all of my books are my favorites.
I have a favorite cat, and I've already said who it is. It's Zeke, everyone. There you go.
Zeke is, and if I could just say a little bit more about Zeke. Zeke, as I said, my husband always said Zeke was too smart to be a dog. He was also, he was the one when my husband had him and didn't have another hunting dog at that particular time. Zeke was the one that would go out and really hunt hard for my husband. But as soon as Doc came into the picture, Zeke decided he was management and Doc was staff. And so Zeke would not go past my husband. He would stay with him. And as soon as Doc was a fabulous hunting dog, as soon as Doc would find the birds and then Zeke and point them, then Zeke would rush up and take over. because he wanted the credit of the bird. If any other hunter, my husband was very good. I mean, he loves the animals, and so he's very good with them. But if anybody were to reprimand Zeke or to tell him, oh, this is bad, Zeke would then cower, and he would go next to my husband, and he would not move, and he would sulk for the next hour behind my husband. That's how smart Zeke was. He was, if you could have seen him, I could tell you another story. I don't know if I think it's still appropriate. When we got Zeke, he was with a trainer, and the trainer was bragging to my husband about how wonderful this dog was. And my husband said to him, okay, is he house trained? We like our dogs to be house trained because they're inside. Oh yeah, Zeke's house trained. Well, right behind him, Zeke was raising his leg, doing his business right behind the trainer. As soon as he said that, it's like Zeke knew. And he's that kind of a dog, or he was.
Good old Zeke. He thought he was a cut above all the others.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Now, your latest book, Linda, Blake Jake's Unusual Day, Travels with the Pack. What gave you the idea or the inspiration to create a story around a turkey, Blake Jake's, linked up with a Hereford bull, Homer, and one of your dogs, Rush? Now, Rush bit off a lot more than he could chew in this book, didn't he?
Yes.
He didn't come off the best.
That's right. My husband hunted turkeys, and you really don't want to hunt dogs with turkeys because turkeys can be very ferocious and they can really hurt the animals. So I exaggerated the story a bit, but Rush and Zeke were both known to, if they were around cattle, and my husband was in all sorts of fields, and if they were around the cattle, if there was a very young calf, then Rush would go try to pull it away with by the neck, and this has actually happened. And then the other cattle would surround him, and then he would be afraid and he would run away. So I combined Homer, the bull, the Hereford bull, with the turkey, and also with Rush to make the story, because Rush was very stubborn, and Rush always had to learn the lesson the hard way. So that's what I did with that one.
Because it's, I love the bit in the book where you've got Blake Jake wishing he hadn't snoozed in between classes on how to do emergency takeoffs. And the overall concept that Rush had bitten off more than he could chew, yeah. It's fabulous.
That is absolutely, yeah. And that's exactly, my husband had many adventures with turkeys, etc. And yes, so yes, the animals did learn a lot if they were around them, although he didn't really like to hunt.
Blake was actually bigger than Rush, wasn't he?
Yes.
When Blake puffed up, he was bigger than Rush.
That's right. And Blake didn't want to be caught by Rush either. And Blake Jake was very smart, and he taught Rush a lot of lessons in that book.
And good old Homer gave him a good ticking off as well with a good hoofing. Oh. Yeah.
Yes.
Go and have a look at the book, everybody. Now, Linda, you chose to re-edit Desert Friends, Travels with the Pack. So this is the fifth book we're going to talk about, but it's the second edition, everybody. And it's got lots of awards. It's starting to build more awards. And quite frankly, Linda keeps emailing me every day, oh, it's just got another award. But one of the awards was the Best Book Frida Film Festival Orson Welles in Paris Awards 2023. And now she's got a Chicago Awards 2023. And she keeps emailing me them with all these awards. I have to say to her, Linda, will you please stop sending the awards? I'm running out of space to do the introduction. But the story, let's just refresh here, everybody. It's about the friendship between Rodney, a brown and black speckled roadrunner, and his friend Quincy, a Gamble's quail, who are chatting away to each other, thinking about lunch. Now, the story is set in the Arizona desert, Sonora, around there. And so it's hot. And it also includes the story of two of the hunting dogs, Gator and Tripod. Now, Tripod was called Tripod because he had 3 legs. Naturally, Tripod. So they're the 2 German short-haired pointers. So it's the story of the 2 dogs, Rodney the Roadrunner and Quincy the Gambler's Quail. Now, Quincy has all of a sudden realised, oh, it's the quail hunting season. I might be lunch. I think I need to do something here. Now, a storm blows up from nowhere. Now, I'm not going to tell you the story here because I'm going to get Linda to tell you the story. Tell us the story, Linda, of this book.
Okay, I'll tell you parts of it. My husband did a lot of hunting in the Sonoran Desert for quail. And the dogs were with him. But in this particular in this particular case, I should say, I start out that story with animals come in all sizes, shapes, and colors. And they were friends. I wanted to teach the children the humorous story of animals that were not the same species and yet could still be friends and learn about each other, learn their differences and how they were like. And in this story, Quincy and Rodney, they were just having a blast. But they learned a couple of things that were different about them. And the fact that roadrunners basically are loners, whereas the quail gather together in coveys. That's one example. The storm on the Tripod and Gator coming into the story, they were out hunting. And Quincy got very upset, but she knew that Gator and Tripod would not let the hunter get near them, or at least would tell her before the hunter got there. In the meantime, a large storm came, and all of those arroyos out there in the Sonoran Desert can fill up immediately with water. I mean, just unbelievable. And the dogs and the birds were trying to get out. They met each other. I'm not going to go into a lot of that, but anyway. And so they all got out except for Tripod. Tripod couldn't get out. So Quincy and Rodney and Gator went all along the bank trying to get Tripod out. And in the end, of course, they were able to get him out, to make a long story short. And then the hunter comes up, and the hunter learns a little bit about Quincy and also Rodney. So and then it's a friendship story, but it's humorous.
It is. It's friendship, and it's quite a funny book as well. The story's quite funny, but it's very, very endearing. What's the difference between the first edition and the second edition? And sorry?
No, go ahead.
And so what's the difference between the first and the second edition? What's extra? And do you think all the awards that you're getting for your books are important to you?
I think the difference, I'll start with the first part. The difference between the two stories is on the second edition, I have added activities in the back for teachers, for parents, and for librarians. And this particular story is with Story Monsters, Inc. The publisher is Story Monsters Press, and they are fabulous. And so is anybody else I've been with too. But their digital magazine, which is produced in Massachusetts, is for teachers, librarians, and parents. And then they have a chapter also in Arizona, and it's the Story Monsters Press. And when I went with Linda Radke with Story Monsters Press, she was delightful. And she's the one that encouraged me to put things for teachers. I'm a teacher first, and I love teachers. And I really feel like it's important to teach the children, but not make it boring. It has to be fun. And that's what I hope my stories get across. I have the activities in the back. The children learn how to pick out a page, and I ask them, what do you see? What do you hear? All of those kind of questions. And I'm using the skills that I got from the museum and from my other facets of my life into putting it all together in the books. And now you asked me about my awards. I think, to me, it's because of everybody I'm around, the reason I've gotten the awards. I have a writers group in which the people have taught me more than I can honestly say to you, John. And I'm sure you've had experiences like that. The museum for 20 some years, my Lord, I learned so much about children and about paintings and about putting everything together. It's for, yes, I love having the awards. Please don't get me wrong. That kind of validates my books, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But more important, it is my memories someday for other people about hunting dogs and about the most fabulous man I ever married, my husband, and all that he's taught me. So that's, yes, I love having the awards, but it's not for me. I mean, it's for the work that I do. I don't know how else to say it.
That's fair enough. Good. That's fair enough. So what's next? Any other books coming down the line, Linda?
Oh, I have 5 other manuscripts already written, and oh yes, The Curious Friendship of Patch and Barney, about Patch, the dog that you know, and a skunk.
Doc's daughter, yeah.
Yes, Doc's daughter. And Rush was actually his son, by the way. They were in the same litter, Patch and Rush. But yeah, the skunk, Barney, that I think that's a cute one. Another one is, The Great Animal Escape. That's what Story Monsters is working on right now for me. And that is, I love that book. It has a lot of characters in it about a cow and a bull and a burro and a raven, Bernie, which kind of puts it all together, but it's their escape. And they're escaping because they don't want to have hamburgers made out of them. And so they learn about that. They learn it from a raven that came from Mexico telling them, who gossips a lot. And so they escape from their ranch. And it's their adventure on escaping from the ranch, and where they end up. They end up at a retirement cow ranch where the owner doesn't destroy the cattle. The owner lets them live out their lives. And we had read about some Spanish owners of cattle that they actually would hold on to those cattle, and they didn't necessarily kill them. Not that they didn't end up, in hamburgers, but they really treated them different than some of the things that happen over here. So to be honest with you, that I think I'm really looking forward to that one, because it's got a lot in it.
Let's hope I get to see that one. You're a writing factory, really, aren't you? You just roll them off the press.
Yes. Well, I've got to do this. I'm in the latter edition of my life, so to speak, and I've got a lot of stories to tell. I've got another one about the missing case of the pink piggy, and it's about two of these German Shepherd dogs, and what happens when one of their little squeeze toys goes missing. And I've got a one on prairie dogs and on the prairie dogs and also eagles. And I think it's kind of cute. It's about the grandpa eagle and the grandma prairie dog and how they teach their children the rules of the road.
Oh, I love the prairie dogs. I love the prairie dogs.
I do too. And they're very smart. And they have lots of tunnels, and they have a birthing tunnel. They have like an area where they eat. Yes. Oh, yeah. there's over 150 different species that actually use the tunnels. Like when the prairie dogs have left those particular tunnels, they become tunnels for other species. I mean, they're really they're smart animals.
They're a fundamental part of the prairies.
Yes.
So, Linda, where can people get? No. Linda, where can people get your books from?
Okay, they can get it from the website www.harkeybooks.com, and in that website it talks about myself. It talks about the books, each book, and all the awards that each book has gotten. And in that website, you can either order them from the website itself, or from Amazon, or from, I've got two publishers, Archway Publishing, which was very good with my books too, and also my new publishing company, the Story Monsters Press. So, that's where you can get them.
Excellent. Linda, it's been a huge pleasure to interview you for the third time, and I hope we'll be doing lots more. I've thoroughly enjoyed going over the books again, and also, finding out now about Blake Jakes and The Unusual Day. It's been fascinating. And just to go over and look at Mike Minnick's fabulous illustrations, they are simply amazing, everybody. I think kids just going to adore these books. They're going to love them. And yes, rock on, Zeke. That is all I have to say.
You're very sweet. Yes, I've enjoyed today. And yes, I want to do it again. So there.
So, Linda, thanks for joining me again. Linda Harkey, everybody.